So here's a two-door decision. I wonder if we should raise our prices on our product. That's a two-door decision. That's not a decision that needs to come from the C-suite. All of these decisions need to be made where the people are closest to the game, and those decisions would never put a company in jeopardy.
Right.
And what I mean in jeopardy, a C-suite one-door decision could put the company in very severe jeopardy. So should we be doing this? There's legal implications, taxation, government regulation. These are things at the C-suite level that if we make the wrong decisions could have a very negative impact on us. Right? So we see corporations all the time. They did things against SEC rules. They have a $100 million fine.
Welcome to Season 4 of the Manage Self, Lead Others podcast with Nina Sunday, CSP, for experienced and aspiring people managers. This show helps you explore ways to become a more intentional leader. Each episode, host Nina Sunday speaks with some of the brightest business minds on the planet who share a passion to elevate and transform team culture. Workplace culture hides in plain sight. Is yours flourishing? Join the movement to make your workplace a better place to work. Are you ready? Because it's time to manage self, lead others.
Dan Silberberg believes each person is here for genius work, and he's pretty good at figuring out for most people what their genius is and reflecting it back so they truly see it. Dan Silberberg's expertise as a CEO, combined with his proven track record turning around troubled businesses, has earned him a reputation as a trusted advisor, along with his master's degree in leadership and coaching. Dan is an expert at facilitating top performers to become the next best version of themselves. I'm excited to invite Dan Silberberg yet again to Manage Self, Lead Others podcast. Today's theme is Leading in the Age of AI. Welcome back, my friend, Dan Silberberg.
Good afternoon, Nina. It's great to be with you.
Ah, yes. This is about episode 10 with you, so just look at our playlist for all the Dan Silberberg episodes. You're my favourite guest.
Thanks.
And the last episode was on the multidimensional leader, which was all about the inner journey. But really, AI has just really arrived, and now it's leading in the age of AI. And I'll let you start the discussion.
So if we look at how AI is accelerating change, then if we just show up in traditional leader roles, I think we miss the opportunity to optimize who we are as a leader and our team, our family, our community, in our education institutions.
And of course, leaders have a great opportunity to rally the team around thinking differently and for people to actually develop their innovative creativity. But here's the thing, Dan, the number of people I meet that will say, but I'm not creative. And I go, everybody is. It was just, you just lost it at age 10 or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when you look at our education system, what do we train? We don't train you to be a leader. We train you to be compliant. We train you to fit in. We train you to follow the rules, right? So it's not that you're not creative. It's just that we've kind of developed you on the left brain side to be rational, to be logical, to be analytical, right? To have all the answers. That's the old world. That's not this inflection point in the new world. So if you as an individual and as a leader choose to stay in that world, you are going to become obsolete because that is really what AI does. What AI does is the rational, the logical, the process to outcome that we're all trained for.
Yeah. Oh, yes. My catchphrase is always look for the second right answer. A lot of people go with the first solution that pops in their head. And we're talking about root cause analysis, the ability to ask maybe why 5 times.
So for me, what I look at is most meetings, here's the problem in the first 5 minutes, 55 minutes to the solution. It's the opposite. 55 minutes, what is the real problem?
Yes.
Right? Because the initial problem is probably not the problem. So
Mm.
what's the problem? The problem is multidimensional. When police show up, that's the end game. The real question is, where does this begin?
How might
That's,
we uh, encourage the community to de-escalate their own issues of friction and conflict so
yeah,
we don't even need to call the police?
exactly. Right. So one of the questions, if you want to solve a problem, is who are you in the transaction? If there's more than one person, who are you in the transaction? Right?
Right.
You're fighting with your neighbor over a fence. Who's you in the transaction? Are you explosive? Are you creating all kinds of upset? So it's the Delphi at Oracle that says, know thyself, right? It's Socrates who said, a life unexamined is a life not worth living,
Exactly.
right?
Agree with you.
Or my favorite, the German poet Rilke, who says there's only one journey. It's the journey inside.
Yes.
And so now we start to move from style and skill and traits. Now, how do we move to authenticity? How do we
Mm,
move to adaptability? How do we scale our emotional intelligence? This is the shift to the internal journey.
mm.
So the question becomes, who must I become to lead in this new arena, in the arena of AI, in the arena of quantum computing, in the arena of speed of change, in the arena of volatility, uncertainty, ambiguity. So, as the leader, no longer are you the one who's supposed to have all the answers. What you really want to do is get the best from your team in leading them.
And go to your people with questions rather than with answers. Exactly.
There's a whole new shift coming, not only for your people and how are they going to get over fear of change with AI? How are you going to lead that? And if you're unwilling to change from that technical expertise to a multidimensional leader, coach, mentor, remover of existence, demonstrating vulnerability, driving new innovation, moving from left brain to right brain, from rational to creative, then your team is going to fall short because you're falling short.
Well, you brought up the elephant in the room, which is fear of change. I mean, what constitutes fear of change and what triggers it?
Fear of change is one. And the other core question for a C-suite leader, what's your relationship to power? If your relationship to power is status, if it's almost like dad telling the kid says, "And why do I have to do that?" And the dad or mom says, "Because I told you so." It's my house, you play by my rules, your house play by your rules. That no longer works in leading. So status, situational title, right? Having technical expertise was good, but that's not the key to the game today, right? The decisions. So, one of the things that I'm looking at are the real key question is how decisions are made. There's a thing called one door and a thing called two door.
Tell
Have you
us,
heard?
is this a decision making process?
Yeah.
Love it. Tell us.
So, here's a two-door decision. I wonder if we should raise our prices on our product. That's a two-door decision. That's not a decision that needs to come from the C-suite. All of these decisions need to be made where the people are closest to the game, and those decisions would never put a company in jeopardy.
Right.
And what I mean in jeopardy, a C-suite one-door decision could put the company in very severe jeopardy. So, should we be doing this? There's legal implications. That's not the decision for a marketing group.
No.
That's taxation, right? Government regulation. These are things at the C-suite level that if we make the wrong decisions could have a very negative impact on us, right? So we see corporations all the time. They did things against SEC rules. They have $100 million fine.
We're talking about Dieselgate with the VW company.
All kinds of things like that. Those are one-door decisions, right? We're not in complicated, we're in complex now. So totally different environment.
It's a VUCA world.
Yeah,
C for
exactly.
complex.
So now, as opposed to managing outcome, we're now managing our people. We're managing our emotions. We're managing their emotions, right? So this is a very
Yeah.
different game.
Okay, so when you say the leader is managing their team members' emotions, can you talk about that a little? Is it the social sensitivity where you have a one-on-one where you maybe coach them and give them the observation that their behavior was emotional in a maybe in a non-productive way?
Yeah, it could be as easy as Nina. I'm noticing that I'm starting to see elements of what I know to be burnout. How are you doing? Do you
Right.
need do you need some time? Are we putting too much work on you and you're not telling us truthfully, I can't get all of this done. So do we need to give you, help around that? Um,
That's a
it's
very
we
generous leader that does that because I hear people frequently talk about how the workload is just over the top and they're just being given more. And so I mean, it's not my role to intervene, but I just wonder what's happening in the culture in that company when people are really bending under the weight of their workload.
Right. And if you as an employee do not feel empowered, that if you feel if I were to tell the truth, I could be fired. If
Yeah.
I told them I really can't hold up all of what you're giving me, we're on overload. I actually need your help to prioritize. So I have four things, Nina, that you've given to me to do. I'm managing those. It's now Wednesday morning. I pick up the phone and Nina, I need you to take on these four things too. So what's your reaction? If your reaction is, now I have eight things to work on, shame on you and shame on them. What you could say is, Dan, I'm working on the four things that you've given me. This is taking all of my time. I love these new ideas, but I need your help. I can only do four. So, are there any of these first four that you've given me that you would rather put as a later priority? So, it's me being sovereign in myself and being on my side and not being afraid I'd be fired because I'm actually telling you the truth. I want to deliver for you what you want. Here's the capacity. Help me prioritize.
That is a
Most
golden
executives,
advice. Golden advice, Dan.
but if you're afraid, if you're in a toxic culture, if you're in a culture where you stand up and people go, well, he's out of here, that's not going to work. So as a leader now, this is something that you need to do. So when we look at our core beliefs as a leader, this is very different than I have a democratic style of leadership.
Mm,
What's your core belief of I'm not enough? What's your core belief of I have to control everything and micromanage?
yes.
What's your core belief of my worth is tied to what I achieve? And so if I'm not stepping over people, I don't have self-worth. What if it's I'm alone and on my own, no one wants to help me? What if it's vulnerability is weakness? And I can go on and on and on and on. These are the core beliefs that drive our behavior. They could be strategies of being a little boy and a little girl that were genius because we got to be adults. but they
Mm.
also could be very maladaptive as adults, even though they were genius in our survival in our childhood.
And the other issue that we've mentioned before in the past, Dan, is what got you to be a senior leader isn't necessarily what will keep you as a senior leader, especially now that we're in the age of AI. So, how does a senior leader, CEO, or anyone in the C-suite be humble enough to say what are my personal gaps, skill gaps in terms of my emotional world, my inner world? Is that the right
Mhm.
question?
Yeah, and so your leadership effectiveness, in my mind, is always limited by what you don't know about yourself. Okay. So if we look at that, then we look at what is what I call your leader operating system. This is the system downloaded in you as an early child from basically 2 to 7 years old. This is mom or primary caregiver. This is family belief system. This is early education belief system. This is if you have any spiritual or religious indoctrination, there's a belief system. There's the cultural norms that we're supposed to live by. And then there's political and institutional norms. All of that is downloaded into us as a child. We're in theta brainwave, and whatever is downloaded is accepted as truth. But it's
And
not true.
sometimes norms are unwritten ground rules that are almost invisible, but they operate. We're coming up to our final 5 minutes or so, Dan. Um, how can people ask themselves or self analyze?
In my world, I would tell you it's virtually impossible to do on your own. How others see us. It is created by how we see ourselves. But if you think you can create your own identity, try looking in your eyes without looking in a mirror. So the idea is I work with people one on one and I work with people in groups. And so find someone that you like, who you trust, who you can be vulnerable with. So when I say, tell me your story, I love people telling me their story and how they grew up. Okay. And I hear what they're not telling me as much as I hear is what they're telling me. So when they tell me these stories, so tell me three of your earliest experiences. Well, when I was a little boy, I felt the safest in my room with the door locked, looking out the window because there was a forest in my backyard. That's a young man talking to me. Do you think he sees the world as safe? I don't. So now we've got the story. Well, what's underneath the story? So that happened when I'm 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10, right? Well, now we're going to work on some strategies and we're going to work on things because our brain has neuroplasticity. I'm alone and on my own. People don't want to help me. So your assignment for the week, Nina, every day, 10 times a day for 2 weeks, ask for things. Dan, I'm
Yes.
running late. Could you call me an Uber? Dan, I'm running behind on the project. Could you give me 30 minutes sometime this week? Dan, right? You ask your wife, you ask your kids, you ask your associates, you ask whatever. 90% of the time, people will say yes. If you do that for that 2 week period, 10 times a day, you will rewire this idea that I'm alone and on my own and people don't want to help me.
Can a C suite leader be coached by you?
Anybody can be coached by me if they are up for it, but you have to really want to do the work. And so, my work is with C-suite leaders. My goal is to train the generation of leaders 30 to 45
Right.
because they're not going to survive in a toxic hierarchy, disempowering command and control environment. This world, the way AI is going to drive change, you'll be lost and you'll be left out. And so, yes, I'm happy to work with C-suite leaders, particularly on starting to think about new business models, new ways of interacting. But ultimately, if a C-suite leader called me and said, I think Nina's got real potential, I'd love you to coach her, most people would say, I'll do it. I won't.
Right.
What I would say is, to the person who thinks you need coaching, unless I can work with you as well and then work with the two of you, you're not getting away with that shenanigan.
I love it.
Okay?
I love it. Do you know what? I hear that all the time in my business. People complain about the team, and I go, are you abdicating your role? However, I will work
Right.
with the team,
So
and then I'll
anyway,
work with the leader after that.
so I'd love to work with anybody who's really dedicated, because
Yeah.
unless you're committed and dedicated and really would do, if it's a goal, I'm not interested. If it's a commitment and it matters to your personal integrity, then I have interest.
Well, we've come to the end of our time, Dan. It's always a pleasure. Tell us how people can find you, work with you. Give us a 2-minute summary.
Sure, I'm sure you'll put in yeah, so I'm sure that you'll put in the show notes. It's Dan at Entelechy, ENTELECHY.ai. That's my personal email. Or you can go to my website, entelechy.ai, and you can see all of the different programs that we do, and you can reach me through that as well. And would love to talk to anybody who really wants to become the best version of themselves, because it's in there.
Indeed. All the best, and thanks very much.
Thanks, Nina. I really appreciate it. It's always a joy to be with you, and you are a force of nature as well. So I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Dan's storied career as a CEO, combined with holding a master's degree in leadership and coaching, just imagine Dan Silberberg as your personal mentor to help you uncover the genius within you. It's not for everyone, it's only for senior leaders and CEOs, anyone in the C-suite. Joining Dan Silberberg's Leader Council for C-suite leaders starting soon could be the deepest and most exciting professional development of your career and your life. This is the new world of leading in the world of AI. All it takes to get started is a free conversation with Dan. Go to his website, entelechy.ai, that's ENTELECHY.ai, and mention my name, Nina Sunday. Perhaps it'll unlock a listener discount, and it can start your journey to become a collaborative, high-performance leader. It might begin with Dan Silberberg's Leader Council. I hope you've enjoyed today's amazing discussion with Dan Silberberg, and share it with a few friends, share it with your team, and until next time, bye for now.
Nina Sunday CSP is on a mission to help leaders transform culture. Nina Sunday travels from Brisbane, Australia to facilitate half-day or full-day workshops at your location anywhere across Australia. For a list of Nina's topics around leading people, productivity and communication, go to brainpowertraining.com.au/signature programs to request a tailored proposal. To book Nina Sunday CSP to speak at your conference in Australia, New Zealand, Asia or internationally, head to ninasunday.com for details.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.